has a voice, and it's gonna be heard. Bringing you news you can use and facts that you cannot doubt. Hey.
Hi again, and I just want to welcome you to tuning in to another episode of One Purpose Talk, where we talk about health news, community and culture topics, and all things related to what's going on with Black people in our community. So today, I am going to be bringing forth two topics in particular. One that kind of discusses toxic masculinity, and another with narcissism. I wrote an article on it a while ago, and so I wanted to shed light to some of the characteristics of a narcissist, just to help us flow through life. We don't ever want to find ourselves in the predicament that we were in with the previous presidency. If you know me, you know that I am not a fan of Trump, but that's okay. And it has absolutely nothing to do with being a Republican or a Democrat. It was personality for me. So, to start off with our culture topic on toxic masculinity, how does it impact the culture? We always talking about the culture, right? We may have been having the conversation in depth starting 7 to 8 years ago. But in 2020, many reports through research organizations began tying a rise in suicide rates to toxic masculinity. Last season, we dedicated a segment to the rise in the suicide rate of men in Chicago. Research has shown us that the incline has been seen mostly in Black youth. From ages 15 to 19 years old, research has also showed us that females are more likely to attempt suicide, where more men actually die by suicide when the act is attempted. So in a research letter from JAMA Psychiatry, published February 12th of 2020, it found males identified as having traits of toxic masculinity were 2.4 times more likely to die by suicide compared to men who did not exhibit such strong traditional views of masculinity. The researchers also determined that toxic masculinity was associated with higher rates of behaviors correlated with suicide risk. For example, males with high traditional masculinity were more likely to use a weapon to start a fight. So parallel those reports for the increase in Black males compared to Black women. According to Suicide Prevention Resource Center, from 2009 to 2018, as in the overall U.S. population, the suicide rate for men is more than 3 times the rate for women in Black populations. The suicide death rate for the overall U.S. population is approximately double that of Black populations for both males and females. So with that, it is very important for us to begin to encouraging men to speak up about their issues and begin as a society to redefine masculinity. And with that, I want you to watch this clip from This Is Life, an emotional boot camp to help boys become men.
Taking over from here is a new mentor, Ashanti Branch, an activist and former math teacher from Oakland, with a proven record of breakthroughs, even with the most difficult young men.
This is called You Can't Tell by Looking at Me. And this is about taking the mask off a little bit more. There's so much that we have in common that we would never know. And whatever you're willing to reveal will be really helpful for each of us. The way you start is you say, you can't tell by looking at me, and then you complete the sentence. You can't tell by looking at me that my father died before I was born. Anytime I see a father and son together, like I feel an emptiness. All my life I wanted to have a father. So, who would like to go first?
You can't tell by looking at me that I scared of getting too close to too many people.
You can tell by looking at me that I'm anxious.
And so in my research, I found a great quote. The quote is from Christopher Lamarck. He owns Coffee, Hip Hop, and Mental Health. It's an organization that bridges the community and mental health gap. He said in a magazine interview, "I felt broken and powerless. This emotional moment would motivate me to go to counseling. Therapy was difficult at first, but after experiencing transformative moments, I wanted to share this feeling with people." And that was a quote from Sheen magazine written by Kelly Webb. If I can encourage you to visit the website, I'll put it here so you can see his website and the work that he does. And I want to share the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-TALK. Mental health news. So I always try to engage in topics around mental health and our physical health even. And sometimes our emotional health. I talk about those things too. But here I wanted to start by talking about having conversations about narcissists. For me personally, I can say that I used to believe that narcissism was a faraway thing, because in the Black community, a lot of the issues that cause narcissistic behavior, I thought that we just didn't have the privilege to have, the traits and the characteristics that they say cause narcissism in a person, right? So I wanted to start off by defining it. I wanted to introduce you to some ideas around the behaviors and how it's defined by psychologists. So psychology of narcissism is selfishness involving a sense of entitlement, a lack of empathy, and a need for admiration as characterizing a personality type. So the psychoanalysis of a narcissist is self-centeredness arising from failure to distinguish the self from external objects, either in very young babies or as a feature of mental disorder. So I wrote an op-ed for One Purpose magazine, which is my magazine, recognizing that this season of Trump possibly took a toll on past victims of narcissists. Overcomers of narcissists I know going through this presidency and the year 2020 in particular was challenging psychologically and possibly emotionally. Still, if you can see it this way, it builds your resilience. I do believe even supporters of this president will see in time that all the chaos was not worth the vote. It takes a while for your mind to return to level-headedness beyond the lies and manipulation. As a nation, we have gone through many challenges. Still, as a nation, we will continue to move this American project forward, right? So narcs are so charming. It's hard to believe you were duped. I understand. So characteristics of a narcissist. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the 9 traits of a narcissist are grandiose sense of self-importance, preoccupation with fantasies and unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal of love. Do you all remember that moment where Trump said to the thugs that mobbed the Capitol, "I love you"? Was that not strange? I felt it was strange. But anyway, belief they're special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. So they have a need for excessive admiration, sense of entitlement, interpersonally exploitative behavior, lack of empathy, envy of others or a disbelief that others are envious of them, demonstration of arrogant and haughty behaviors or attitude. So to define manipulation, because that word has come up, manipulation is the practice of using indirect tactics to control behavior, emotions, and relationships. Gaslighting. Have we heard that in the news lately? Yes, we have. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation in which a person or a group covertly sows seeds of doubt in a targeted individual or group, making them question their own memory, perception, or judgment. How is a narc created? Environmental childhood abuse or neglect, excessive parental pampering, unrealistic expectations from parents, sexual promiscuity, and there's genetic traits as well, inherited characteristics. So the ways, after doing my slight research, ways to break free from a narc is to know the characteristics and never get entangled with one or vote one into presidency, right? So I wanted to bring this conversation to the forefront because I do believe that there were a lot of people who were duped, not just overall Republicans or Trump supporters or whatever, but there are even people in our community that began to believe that it was okay to put someone like this as the leader of the free world. And we can debate about Republican views, liberal and conservative views, Democratic views. We can have healthy debate about that all day long. But when you have someone with these types of characteristics that crave power the way that the past president did, then you begin to create the type of chaos that's not healthy for a democracy. And I think that when we take into consideration who we want our leaders to be, whether in this country or leaders of our households, I think that we have to start looking at personality traits and behaviors and factoring those things into our decision making. So that is my news for today. Hopefully it's news that you can use. I do believe that things like this should be talked about in the classrooms, in our churches, in our community organizations. We have to start having these conversations around mental health, around personality disorder issues, because our communities are going through, so we want to begin to grab a hold of some of these issues and take control over our lives the way that we should. So that's it. That's all that I have for you today. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. I appreciate your clicks. So if you can like the video, share the video, give me a comment. Let me know what you think, as long as it's healthy and it contributes to good community talk and not trash that I'll have to delete. I welcome it.